Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to a build-generated thing. I don't know what to call this. It's basically replay analysis, but I'm enacting what I've recommended somebody do. It's more of a build guide, build example. More similar to like ViBE, and I'm going to talk people through it. So what's happening now is I'm making a build for somebody. This is designed for diamond level and above. If you get better at it, you can definitely use this in masters and so on, but this is diamond and above. This is not below diamond. I do not recommend this in below diamond. If you are below diamond and you try this, you could, but you're probably going to have a hard time. Just keep that in mind, okay? If you want lower than diamond level builds, I would recommend actually looking at bronze GM to get builds that are more suited for people in that range. But anyways, diamond plus for my boy Anton. Okay, here, without further ado, this is what it is. This is going to be a very greedy example build where we are going to be going for 2-gate robo expand into a very fast third with very quick robo immortal prism pressure, which we will then follow up with a fuckload of charge lot Archon immortal. The whole point of this build is it is really greedy and risky, but if you can contain your opponent and keep them defensive, you can get away with it and then turn this into it's safe as well early game up till 2 base, up until like you're ready to take your third. That's when it gets greedy though. But if you actually take your third, you're good to go, and it's really strong. So that's why this build is hard. It requires you to be very active multitasking wise. You need to be very active. Now, we're going to be going for 2 gates into a natural, 2-gate expand. So it's a safe opener for PvP. And we're going to scout and, you know, make sure that everything is not looking super all in. If it was all in, we could make like a defensive battery or something. But yeah, 2-gate expand is what was the plan. We're going to see what he's doing. And we're going to go into, like I said before, that's when the greed will start. So if there was like no expansion and you were worried about what could happen, you know, we would be like, holy fuck, let's, you could still take a natural, but like you would then play very defensive with like a battery and prepare yourself. Be very cautious. So if you saw something like this, the proper response would be take an early battery after you make a robo. Robo first always, and then you can take an early battery. You'd be like, alright, let's fucking take that robo. Or actually, hold on, make a second stalker and a sentry first, then make your robo. You have 2 stalkers, you have another stalker and a sentry in production. Once I'm not supply blocked. Jesus. It's okay, guys, don't worry. Build's looking great. We have the Nexus. Costs like this are okay. It's okay. And then now we're going into our... So Robo's quick. This gives us access to like really fast immortals defensively if we need it. We're now going to make our really early battery. This battery will be finishing right around the time the Nexus does, so I can overcharge it if I have to right away. And we're just chilling now while we build probes and build our robo. We are now at, that's the last chrono boost I'm going to spend. No more chrono boost is going to get spent so that we can instead chrono boost out our immortals. This is very important about this build. The second this is done, you prioritize this. Chrono boost it and make units like right away. You want to not stop chrono boosting this every time it's available until you get to 2 immortals and a prism. Because that is the only way you're going to keep him defensive. It's the only way. If you don't keep your opponent defensive with this, you could die. Meanwhile, you have your defensive battery, stalkers, all that good stuff to throw another chrono boost at this building. Keep making probes and make another immortal. And then whenever you have a moment to spare with free gas or whatever, you can make like another sentry or something. Or a stalker. Does not matter. Just make a unit. We'll make another stalker now. So we have 2 sentries and stalkers. We could send out a hallucinated phoenix to scout again. Throw 1 more chrono boost at this, and this should be good. Now let's get ready to make a warp prism. We will make a warp prism now. And start the warp prism at 250 minerals, which is just about right now, and it's perfectly timed. That's good shit. So now we have 2 mortals. We got a pylon about to finish, so we're not going to block. We're actually still making everything. Okay, that scout, whatever you saw his base, you'd be like, okay, I see what he's kind of doing. You get I get an idea. The thing you would want to look for here is like how many gates does this dude already have? If he has a fuckload of gates, maybe you'd want to keep these defensive immortals defensive. If he doesn't have a lot of gates and he's going for more like greedy like you are, like he's got a lot of probes, you could use them aggressively. And now from behind this, go back into making, make an observer first, and then go back into making immortals after. So now you make an observer and then immortals again, and you can go back into making stalkers again.
Yeah.
And from here, you take a third base while being aggressive. And I'm going to send a probe to my third now to get ready to, take a third to get ready to, you know, take the third. So be very careful on the minimap right now. Do not lose your prism. This is the hardest part about this build. Do not lose the prism. If it dies, you're fucking dead. Like that's the whole game is based off of that prism. So you're like, all right, I'm in his base. Drop my immortals in here. Pressure, 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 pressure. Don't be greedy. Literally leave every time he sees you. Do not be greedy. Because if you risk the prism and it dies, you lose everything. That's how you lose the game. Meanwhile, behind this, you can make a council. You can make a forge. And then go back and try again. Do whatever damage you can. Kill anything. Kill probes if you can. He's here. Back the hell out of there. Don't die. Re-rally all of your nexus to your third because our natural is fully saturated. Keep making immortals. Keep making stalkers. Whatever we can. Make another pylon or something as well. We'll go around to the other side of his base. And we'll keep making stalkers. And then now get ready to start chrono boosting these upgrades. Charge +1 weapons. Charge and +1 weapons, and immediately start a Templar Archives. And now drop over here with your prism. Poke whatever you can. Be annoying, be annoying, be annoying, be annoying. Load up. Leave. We just did whatever damage we could, and we're going to get out. Now start making Zealots. Stop making Stalkers. As soon as you start these upgrades, start making Zealots. And start making more gates too, because we're going to start making Archon Immortal Charge Lot. We're no longer going Mass Stalker. And he's attacking my base. So if you have to, if you're like, fuck, I'm going to die, you can always recall the prism. If you see what looks like it's attacking you is not that big, it's not that scary, then you'll be fine. Like, you can keep the prism across the map. But you always have the option to recall the prism. Keep making Zealots. Keep making more gates when you can afford to. And then take your gas when your third base is like pretty much fully saturated, like 12 plus. Go back, harass again. Whenever you get a second, go back to your base, chrono upgrades again. Okay, get out of there. Don't lose your shit again. Once you get more advanced with this build, you can be a little bit more aggressive with the immortals, like actually push them to the limit a bit more. But just for now, for the time being, do not overdo it because you'll probably lose them, and that is the whole game right there. You're better off just keeping them defensive by the threat rather than getting tons of damage actually done. The threat is way scarier than what the damage you're actually doing. Because what the threat is doing is it's keeping him defensive because he's afraid of the fact that if he moves out, the prism is going to fucking kill him. Because this has the potential to warp in on him, even though that's not what you're trying to do. You're not trying to warp in, you're just trying to be annoying. So he's not here, do damage, he shows up again, get out, leave. And now look at our supply. We're going to go level 2 weapons. We now have a bunch of gates we've just made. We're starting to make Archons. And our supply is going to hit maxed out pretty soon now. The whole point of what you want to do now is you're going to want to move out of your base roughly around 150 to 160 supply. So that should be your first warp-in of mass gateways. All the ones that just finished. Your first warp-in should be the one that you move out with. And keep chrono boosting you can chrono boost your immortal production and your attack weapon upgrade production. And now all my gateways are finishing, and we should go past the 150 threshold. So start making a bunch of Templar. We can make one more. I'm gonna start making a bunch of Zealots. And now we're past the 150 threshold. Warping all those into Archons, or phase them, whatever. Merge them. And now, select your whole army, grab it, and go attack. You can take the Prism itself out of the army. You can drop these Immortals in the front. Prism could be in its own group by itself. Keep chrono boosting Immortals and upgrades. And now phase this shit and warp in Zealots. And this is a fucking huge timing. Move the Prism forward with your army and just go for the kill. So we kept them defensive while we played greedy. And now we have this like super sick timing. That's going to be very deadly here. And right as you start this timing, you could even be like, all right, let's start to the base and just let it be. Because I need, my main's running out. I need to transfer probes. You're not making probes anymore. You're just transferring. Warp in your Prism again. Make some more Archons, whatever. Kill whatever you can around the area. Make more Archons and just do your timing. Literally go attack him. Make more Zealots. You like max out with this at like 10 minutes and your level 2 weapons is like right there. If you can keep your opponent defensive, this is a very, 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 very powerful way to play PvP Diamond Plus. If you want to be a greedy style, that's a little risky, but if you can manage to micro it, that's great. And the more damage you deal with the Immortal drop, the more ahead you will be when the timing eventually hits his base, because you'll kill more of his shit. But with this build, you can continuously remax over and over and over and over, and you have force fields from your sentries from early on, if you can abuse that, if he doesn't have Archons yet or something. And then you can go to level 3 weapons too as soon as your level 2's done. You can start transferring probes from your main to your 4th that you made. And you're all good. And there you go. Then that's ideally how the build will be played. You just keep him defensive by the threat of the prism always being at his side of the map. If you lose that prism, if you ever lose it and you're like, oh fuck, I flew into like 7 stalkers, you're going to get counterattacked. And if you get counterattacked in the phase of building up all of your probes and then building all your gateways, but you're not actually online yet with all these gates, you will probably die. If your opponent's doing like a 2-base all-in. But the threat of Prism is so high because not only is the Prism able to drop Immortals in his base, it has the ability to fucking warp into his base too. So there's a huge deal here to deal with this for your enemy. Like, you can't just ignore a Prism and be like, oh, who cares? Every Protoss knows that if you... Everybody, not even just Protoss. Everybody knows if you ignore a Prism and it flies into your base, that is extremely scary. That's like the Protoss form of like a Nidus worm. Like, you can just keep warping into it. And you're like, well, that's actually shitty. I'm going to die now. So in PvP, this works out well. Because in PvP, the Immortal drop is, I would say, the most effective out of any matchup. Because the chances of you fighting against a Phoenix opener in PvP are very low. And the Immortals themselves are quite powerful at dealing with Robo openers and Council openers. And greedy openers. Like, they're really good at... And they're also good defensively, because the thing is if you do this build, what do? This is the big one. We chrono boost 2 Immortals first, okay? And we also Sentry Hallucinated Scout a Phoenix into his base first. And when we do that, at this stage of the game, around like 3 minutes, like 3 to 4 minutes, right around this stage, when we have the Hallucinated Phoenix getting ready to go, and it's right around 4 minutes, and we have the Immortals starting in production of chronoing them out. If you were getting 1 base all in, it would be right about now. You would be getting attacked right about now. Like 5 minutes or before 5 minutes. And if that happened, you would have Stalker, Sentry, Immortal, Battery. This is very fucking strong at dealing with all-ins. Like, this is about the most effective way you could deal with an all-in, because you're chronoing out Immortals, and you have a battery that could be overcharged. Which is going to make you very, 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 very strong against 1 base all-in Protosses. Which is also why I'm telling you to make Stalkers first. Even though you're going to go charge the Archon Immortal eventually, you open Stalker for the purpose of being able to defend all-ins blindly. So it's a safe build for 2 base. It becomes greedy when you go to 3 base, because instead of upping your production on 3 base, you up your economy really fast, but you keep him defensively busy while you saturate your 3rd, and you only have like 2 minutes of time where you're vulnerable, and then suddenly like your 10 gate follow-up explodes repeatedly, and you go from like 130 supply all the way to maxed in like 2 minutes, or not even that, sorry, like 1 minute, which is like 2 or 3 rounds of warp in. Like, it's crazy. You max out super fast once you're there, and then you can continuously remax. So if you can get to that point where you keep him defensive in that phase where you're taking a 3rd, and you actually get all the gates going, that is the hardest part of doing this build. It is difficult. It is not easy. It's going to definitely take practice. But if you can manage to do it, this build explodes with... It's like a massive power spike. And suddenly, once you then get to that point where you warp him with a prism, it becomes super easy. It's no longer difficult. It's really easy to execute it at that point. But setting it up to that point is hard. But once you're there at that point, once you have the prism warping in, and if you're able to max out really fast, your power level in the game is going to just... If you can do it effectively, like around 10 minutes, how we just did, you will dominate everybody in Diamond League. Fucking everybody. And just know you always have the option, if you're getting attacked and your opponent doesn't care about the prism, you always do have the option to recall. So you can always bring back the prism and recall the 2 Immortals inside of it to increase the power of your defense. If your opponent's super all in. That is always an option. But the more damage your Immortal Prism does, whether it be indirectly keeping him defensive or actually killing shit, that's getting you further and further and further ahead to do your final I'm gonna kill you move with the, you know, with your max. But I hope it makes sense. Hope you guys liked it. Again, this is a Diamond Plus build recommendation, not below. If you're below Diamond, I would recommend going and looking at the B to GM styles instead for going up to Diamond. But this is for like safe opener into greedy mid game into a timing attack Protoss build. It is a solid way to play PvP if you want to utilize greed essentially with a safe opener of Robo. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Good luck and take it easy. Adios.